Hello, everyone. Guess who took a shower? I did. But that's not the point here. So remember, this is Daniel Mayo, and, just going to point something out here. All right. So let's go to the beginning. Beginning of, let's say, the fall of medieval time, or anything like that. The fall of Rome. So before then, people know that people were going to, you know, before, let's say, when Rome fell, did they know that paintings were going to be realistic and that pictures were actually going to be realistic or like us? I guess not, did they? And also, did they know that there was going to be many colors to painting back when Rome fell? No, they did not. So let's go to 1400, all the way up to then. So when Leonardo da Vinci was first introduced to these paintings, did people know that there was going to be, did people know that there was going to be people flying? Did people know that people were going to fly? They did not think it was possible, did they? None of them thought it was possible that people would fly back then, did they? But Leonardo da Vinci thought otherwise. And he also thought, there's going to be surgery involved. People thought that wasn't going to be that. People thought that was going to be impossible as well. And he did surgery on other people who are dead. But now people do it when they're alive, and they thought it was impossible when people did surgery to people alive. They certainly did, and we're doing it now without pain in the process of it. But after it will be a little bit painful. But now let's carry on. Back in the 1600s, did people think that there was going to be horseless carriages? Of course not. They thought it was impossible. They thought it was preposterous. And then in let's say 1750s, the people think that there was going to be electricity in a small electric. The people think it was going to be electricity in a small glass jar. No, they thought it was preposterous. They thought that when uh, this, what's his name, Benjamin Franklin, when he put a lightning on a keychain and he put it on the kite and he got struck by it, they didn't even think there was going to be electricity in a wire. Not less they thought it was going to be put in a glass jar that was the size of a hand. Let's carry on. The people back in the 1800s think that there was going to be a computer, an artificial thinking machine, or actually even an artificial robot that would think for us. Did they think that we were going to build anything that was, basically an an artificial intelligence, or what they would call things created by man that would move and act like humans? They thought it was preposterous and impossible. And so they did later on in the 40s because of computers. Now let's carry on. And then, of course, in the 1900s, planes flew, especially in World War One, when people thought it was impossible for planes to fly. But now let's go to World War Two, all the way up to then. The people think that there would be robots the size of bugs. No, they thought that was not. They thought it was not possible. That this was never going to happen because computers would never be that small. You know, that's how people thought. And of course, when people thought that there's going to be satellite taking pictures of everyone and that the government was watching you and everything like that, The people think that satellites would make people spied on, or the people realize that there's going to be the internet or anything like that. The people think back in the 40s that there's going to be people being spied all over the world by the government. You'd be put into institutions for that. I'm pretty sure you would be put into institutions since the 1870s to the 1970s. People thought that was impossible. So when you say the impossible, they would put you into institutions. Then there was this famous writer that wrote 1984. When he wrote that, the people think that there was going to be cameras in screwdrivers. No, they didn't. They thought it was impossible. Let alone, they thought it was impossible for microphones to be put in a tree so people could be heard. They thought that was impossible. And they thought that the computer that was personal sized computer back then, they thought that was impossible. But then we have it in the 70s. And now we have it in the 70s where people say, oh, what about driverless cars? And people thought, well, driverless cars are going to be impossible. And we're going to have that in the future. People thought that driverless cars was going to be impossible. But we have it coming up. And now we have pills to swallow to actually look inside our intestines. You see the trend here? And now we have in the 90s a smart pill that when you take it, you'll literally have an IQ of 1,000. They thought, well, that's impossible. No one could take that. Let alone that they thought it was impossible back in the 70s for people to have part robot and part human. They thought that was impossible back then. And we're getting on a lot of things right now. I mean, back in the 80s, they thought, well, computers on our palms of our hands were impossible. But they thought, well, now that they have it, they thought, they're getting smaller, so it's going to be possible. But they didn't think it was possible for, let alone, a screen to be see-through, to actually see a human picture like this. They thought that was impossible, let alone that, but less they thought they were going to have holographic pictures, basically fully holographic, and in the middle of the air. They thought that was going to be impossible. Some people think it's impossible today. All right. So now we're in today. And I mean, back in the 90s even, they thought it was impossible for little bits of micro computers to go inside of our bodies to basically fight germs. They thought that was impossible. But now, let's think of the impossible today. And I have a couple. And I have more than a couple. What about a pill to not only alter your DNA, but to make it become an animal? Like a literal animal, a fantasy animal, or anything like that. People are going to think that's impossible today, but not in the future. What about a pill the size of your, I don't know, size of a 4-year-old's pinky nail, and to actually have the pill make it become a robot? That, my friends, people think is impossible. To have your DNA completely altered and you becoming a robot. People think that today it's impossible. But then, what about back in the 40s when they thought even having little micro cameras, when they thought that was impossible? having it in a screw. Or how about this? How about a camera in the water bottle? Not just put it inside the water bottle, but actually have it on the label of the water bottle. And that we know that is, quite frankly, impossible for the 40s. They thought that kind of thing was impossible for the 40s, let alone the 1950, where a computer was literally the size of the whole entire room and the size of the whole entire house. People thought that kind of computer was possible, but not literally 128 petabyte, 128 gigabytes in one camera in a water bottle. Like, not petabytes, gigabytes were literally considered really impossible back, even in supercomputers back in the 60s. No one could even imagine such a size. Where would we put all that space? Where would we put all that memory in that huge space? No one could even imagine that. Not even back in the 60s. Gigabytes. Megabytes. No one could imagine that in the 60s. So, in this sense, what about today? What about in the future? People becoming literal robots from medication. Let's go a little further. Let's imagine this pill and this microtechnology, these little slivers of technology of this computer strips going to your brain, and then not only making your brain part of that virus, but that virus literally turning your brain into a computer, and then a plastic particle becoming a virus and making your skin turn into plastic, and then you becoming a robot. And that virus, how many pills you take, depends on how powerful you will get. And those particles will literally, go as deep as your feet extending to the ground. And then you're becoming the strongest titanium or diamond, as we can call it. And then carrying 1,000 people on that load like you're just walking across the street like it's nothing. That, my friends, is considered impossible today. What about, little dust particles coming from smokestacks, and they are literally blue smokestacks and green smokestacks. Like all of that coming up from the pipes. And then you're literally becoming robots and animals wherever your imagination desires. That, my friends, is considered impossible today. What about those microbes literally going in the water and in the food? Or how about the part of the food becoming the microbes and you're eating it, and then you become a robot afterwards or an animal afterward? That, my friends, is considered impossible today. But it could happen in the future. It could. And many of these predictions from 1984 happened. I mean, it could happen today. That's part of 1984. And what I think most of this happened today, parts of 1984. And most of these things that I said today, that are part of the future, you will think that's impossible. You'll think that's never going to happen. But it could happen. It really could happen. That, my friends, sounds impossible. But in the long run, it could possibly happen. And it will be part of a reality if we think about it completely. All right, I'll be done now. Okay. Bye.